We really thought that the private sector was a really strategic opportunity here because it's complementary to the public funding that may or may not be available, but also philanthropic funding and kind of putting that capital stack together, but also to achieve scale and impact, particularly when we're thinking about like a manufacturing opportunity. It's going to be a private sector investment that's going to drive that. That may be enabled by public money, philanthropic dollars, but at the end of the day, the private sector investment could be 5 to 10 times more than the public money in such a project. And so that really is both a challenge and a great opportunity to reach some scale and some impact in a place. So without that, without further ado, I want to turn it over to Ritu or Ritu Bhattacharya from ProsperAmerica, and she's just going to tell us just a little bit more about how we got here and maybe what's next.
Great. Thank you so much, Briggs. Thank you, ReImagine Appalachia, for having us. And always a pleasure to be able to speak more about the work that we've done, as well as the journey that we've had and how we've gotten to this point. So just to give a bit of background, Prosper America was created with the focus and with the intention that communities, particularly energy communities, have so many assets at their avail, both by way of having infrastructure, but also equally importantly having talent. One of the things that we did in the early days of Prosper America is actually go into a lot of energy communities and go into counties and see for ourselves the kind of infrastructure and the kind of capability that existed there. One of the things that we concluded from that was if in fact there is so much which communities have to offer, then what is the gap, which is essentially there where investments are not coming in? What is stopping? What is inhibiting? And there's obviously multiple issues which are stopping from investments, but the biggest thing that we thought we could work on was how do we showcase what is the asset if it takes a field trip a visit to these communities for someone like me to figure out there's so much there. Could this also be true of investors and of private sector communities? Could it be that the one of the initial gaps is the ability of communities to be able to tell their own stories effectively, but also showcase assets which companies and investors and private investors find of value. And then related to that, how do we essentially showcase that in a way that resonates with investors? What are the data points that matter to them? Is it just a matter of like, how many warehouses there are? Does it matter on how far, the units and infrastructures from like highways? Is that what matters? Or is it more about talent and people and whether the community exists to be able to support the ambition of the private sector? So what we subsequently started focusing on quite a lot was seeing and getting an understanding from private sector players, from investors, from financiers to be able to see, okay, what do business leaders look for when they're looking at investment friendly communities? What do they look at when they're considering communities? And we found a number of variables which were important. Interestingly enough, one of the big one was talent. Was what does the talent pipeline look like? Of course, you'd think of the obvious ones of infrastructure, electricity, power, all of those things, but people was also kind of big in there. And that kind of really led us to what we think is a wonderful and a very productive partnership with RA, is to start to, and we started with Buckeye Hill, and of course we'll learn more, but we started to be able to build out what we think is a community's perspective of what they think their assets are, but equally importantly, aligning that with what we think companies want to hear and will be able to bring their eyeballs and attention to those communities. So our intention going forward with Prosper America increasingly is to be able to have that intersection of business and of communities aligned really well, where it results in increased investments. And the way that we see this is if we work with communities to tell their stories and be true to who they are and true to their voice and their assets, but in a way that also resonates and that speaks the language of the private sector and of investors. And it's a very fine line and one which we're actively working to figure out how we want to build that out. And so essentially our journey so far and our path going forward is to be able to align those things. And like I said, RA has been absolutely wonderful in being able to probe, think, analyze, and build out tools. One of we're hoping several tools that we can build out in order to draw investors to communities. And going back to that original question, energy communities have so much to offer. So how do we translate that to investment and how do we translate that to private sector coming in? With that, thank you so much again for having us and pleasure being a part of the conversation. Briggs, I'll return back to you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you, Rithwika. And we will have opportunities for the attendees to provide input both through Mentimeter and in the chat. So I've seen a couple of comments coming in. Keep those coming throughout the next several presentations. But next, we're going to turn it over to Wendy Patton and Bhattacharya Gupta from ReImagine Appalachia. And they're going to really show you one of the tools in the toolbox that we've produced through this partnership. So Wendy, over to you.
Thank you, Briggs. We're going to share with you today a story map. This is a template that we've been working hard on together with our partners, ProsperAmerica and Buckeye Hills. We look forward to both your patience. This is a 20-minute presentation and your discussion afterwards. So with that, we'll start. We're looking at the Buckeye Hills region. It's built for the modern economy and the clean tech future. The Buckeye Hills region of Ohio lies in the heart of the Appalachian foothills within a day's drive of more than half of the nation's population. Strategic location makes it an ideal location for an industrial development in the modern economy. The executive summary we have starts with a list of key economic development assets of the region, which we're going to highlight throughout the presentation. This region lies where Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia meet in the mid-Ohio River Valley, where deposits of coal fueled the industries that built a growing nation. The county name and city with the county seat of government are indicated on the map. You can see the public lands, the forests and parks, in a deeper shade of green. The story map is based on the paradigm developed by the American Manufacturing Communities Collaborative. We focus on infrastructure and site development, workforce and training, operational improvement and capital, research, innovation, and entrepreneurship, supply chain support, and international trade. When using the story map, you can take a shortcut to these individual sections by using the tabs at the top. And we use dashboards throughout to present our maps and data.
Let me open this dashboard in a new tab for better viewing. This first dashboard is an executive summary of our maps and data. On the left side of the map, you see a column with 2 rows. The first one is a legend that includes icon of everything that appears on the map. The second one beneath it is a place for the layers with different infrastructure and site development assets. Click on the boxes here by the layers to turn them off and on. Some layers, as you can notice, have a side arrow and they include different sub layers underneath them. So if you want to see more nuanced content, you can click them and tick box on and off. Tabs at the top link you to other kinds of key information. For example, the manufacturing deep dive tab allows you to understand manufacturing strength of Buckeye Hill counties by sector. Similarly, other tabs such as incentive programs link you to various kinds of programs and subsidies that encourage job creation and investment. Similarly, you have a tax structure tab that takes you to different sort of tax information and links you to the information at the Ohio Department of Taxation website. And you have contacts tab here that takes you to contact information for key organizers and leaders. Finally, these dashboards may appear squishy because here in the story map, they are embedded in the box. So I would recommend you to open each dashboard in a new tab once you have the link for easy viewing.
Appalachia lost jobs in coal mining over the past century, but manufacturing remains the #1 contributor to the regional economy. ReImagine analyzed the region's manufacturing strength using the location quotient, an economic formula that compares the share of employment in a particular industry within a region with the share of employment in that industry in the nation. Here you see that employment in metals production remains more than 3 times as concentrated in the Buckeye Hills region as in the nation. Jobs in non-metallic mineral sectors, including production in diverse building and construction materials, is over twice as concentrated. The concentration in chemicals, plastics, and rubber is almost twice as high or higher. Maps here show the concentration of manufacturing jobs by county. You'll notice geographic clusters in specific counties, including chemicals and petrochemicals, plastics and rubber, metal production, metal fabrication, and machinery manufacturing, and a more diverse spread of employers in wood and wood product industries, and in food and beverage. Construction, engineering, pipeline service firms, and other companies serve the energy and utility industries, including coal, natural gas extracted from the shale play that lies under parts of the region. New industries are locating in Buckeye Hills region. Sci-Heat located their U.S. Research and Development Center along the Ohio River in Marietta of Washington County. Existing companies are expanding. American Heavy Plate Solutions, located on the site of a former aluminum rolling mill, makes custom heavy iron and steel plate products like those used in wind turbines. This company recently completed a $10 million expansion project. We have a visualization how the industries of the past provide the foundation for the modern economy of the future.
This is a radial network diagram, and it offers an illustrative, albeit non-comprehensive look at how North Central Appalachia's manufacturing sector, which are here in blue circle, can connect to emerging clean economic sectors, which are here in green, and products and technologies that are in pink. For example, if I hover above primary metal here, I can see how this industry, where the Appalachian region and the Buckeye Hill holds competitive strength, can contribute to 7 different green slash clean economic sectors. Similarly, if I hover above energy storage sector, I can see connection to 3 North Central Appalachian industry, including primary metal, and how in that process we can produce goods and technologies such as grid battery storage and lithium-ion batteries.
Buckeye Hills region's historical concentration in manufacturing has created great industrial infrastructure and site development assets. A major transportation network with many transportation options connects 14 shovel-ready industrial parks. This includes interstate highways and state highways spanning southern Ohio and running directly to Columbus, providing easy access to fulfillment centers, warehouses, and transportation hubs. CSX and Norfolk Southern, the nation's largest rail carriers, serve the region. The eastern boundary of the Buckeye Hills region lies along the 220 miles of the Ohio River's Mid-Ohio Valley Port, lined with many cargo hubs. Both rail and navigable rivers make the region carbon friendly for shipping and receiving, supporting competitiveness in low carbon markets. 5 of the region's 8 counties have a regional airport or airfield, and the region is close to 2 international airports of the Columbus Regional Airport Authority. Air cargo hubs ship freight nationally and internationally from Columbus, Cincinnati, Wilmington, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh. New industrial developments are being built on the sites of decommissioned fossil fuel plants, former coal mine properties, and brownfields. These sites have robust electrical connections, extensive industrial infrastructure, and access to transportation. Many places in the region are targeted with enhanced incentives for investors. Federally designated opportunity zones provide deep capital gains tax advantages on investment in businesses and real estate development. The Federal Energy Community designation, which covers the Buckeye Hills region, boosts the value of the Federal Department of Energy's investment and production tax credits for net zero carbon energy development and production. There are several electricity generating plants in the 32 counties of Ohio, Appalachian counties of Ohio, and there are many more throughout the tri-state area. Most communities have standard broadband service. Service levels may vary in very rural places like the national and state forests, as shown by coloration on the map. Major utility companies provide electricity and gas throughout the Buckeye Hills region, along with rural co-ops and smaller distributors in many places. The dashboard showed you the conventional power generation sites in and around the region. You see on this map that Ohio also has many sources of renewable energy in place. The base cost of electricity for industrial users places Ohio in the middle compared with other states and higher than other states in terms of natural gas. But these rates are customized based on the nature, load operations, and specific economic development deal for each facility. Doral Renewables in Meigs County leveraged those federal investment tax credits to obtain tax equity financing from Fifth Third Bank for the Great Bend Solar Project. Ohio law allows multiple industrial and commercial customers to join microgrids that offer behind-the-meter connections. Ohio also allows municipal aggregation, which allows the localities and other groups to aggregate large purchases of power. Ohio is not the only state in the region to open access to microgrids, which may rely on low-cost renewable energy sources. This picture here shows the microgrid-powered industrial park being developed by BHE Renewables in Ravenswood, West Virginia, right across the Ohio River from southeast Ohio. Former coal mines, decommissioned coal power plants, and these brownfield sites offer great industrial development locations with robust electricity connections and industrial infrastructure, but also proximity to skilled workers, but located outside of residential communities, which may not welcome the noise, emissions, and traffic of industrial facilities. This data center campus is in the Coshocton Industrial Park, a former coal power plant site just north of the Buckeye Hills region. The Southeastern Ohio Port Authority acquired a decommissioned coal power plant site and is developing a multimodal transportation hub for the Buckeye Hills region on the Ohio River. The second pillar of economic development, and Form Energy. I can't forget Form Energy. Form Energy is built on the site of the former Weirton Steel Corporation, which gained fame and turned over many times through economic development history in Ohio. Form Energy now produces iron air batteries on this site right across the Ohio River in West Virginia. So now moving to our second pillar of economic development. The second pillar is workforce and training. The Buckeye Hills region has a workforce strengthened by in-commuters and a lot of outward-bound commuters who would rather work closer to home. The educational assets are extraordinary.
On the dashboard, you can see how here the unemployment rate in the Buckeye Hill region is higher than the state and labor force participation is lower. Wages remain low relative to the state and national averages, while cost of living correlates to these low wages. Additional high-wage jobs are needed to encourage higher labor force participation, lower unemployment, and improve the standard of living. The Buckeye Hill region is enmeshed in a broad education and training ecosystem that includes many opportunities in the region or within driving distance. For example, there are 11 universities and regional branches, 19 community colleges and regional branch campuses, 7 career and technical centers, and 40 union apprenticeships and training centers. This institution work with employers to design and offer customized workforce development programs, and the state offers subsidies to help with the cost.
Residents' educational levels reflect regional job opportunities. A higher percentage of residents in Buckeye Hills attained at most a high school degree compared to the state. Additionally, a higher percentage of residents went on for an associate's degree than the state average. This shows that workers here can be more open to new training opportunities for a new industry. The workforce is dominated by education, health, and service industries, but employment in manufacturing is fifth. Average wages in the county are just over $48,000 a year, with the range in between the highest average and lowest average paid jobs. The regional labor shed has expanded with remote and virtual work options. The region attracts these workers with a family-friendly lifestyle and affordable cost of living. Over 23,000 people commute into the Buckeye Hills region for work, while almost 49,000 residents commute out. Many would far prefer to work closer to home. It's a labor pool waiting to be tapped. The next pillar we look at is operational improvement and capital access. Small and medium-sized manufacturing companies are critical to Ohio, accounting for 90% of high-paying job growth. The state has many programs in place to support existing companies with access to capital, training, and management consulting, as indicated on the dashboard. For over 30 years, the Ohio Manufacturing Extension Partnership has worked with these small and medium-sized companies to increase sales, create jobs, and generate cost savings through technological innovation, workforce training, and improved management practices. In Southeast Ohio, the Ohio State University's Manufacturing Extension Partnership that serves Southeast Ohio draws on the university's resources, such as the OSU Center for Design and Manufacturing Excellence. BRIGHT, a public-private partnership focused on Appalachia and Ohio, supports the development of companies like Conductor Solar, a new software company in Athens, Ohio. The Appalachian Growth Capital works with public sources of capital as well as regional and national banks to blend resources for growing companies and new technologies. Research, innovation, and entrepreneurship is an important goal of the Southeast Ohio region. The map on the dashboard shows the many research laboratories surrounding the area. The state of Ohio is known for its strength in supporting R&D and has many programs to do so. For example, Tech Growth Ohio connects clients to growth grants, pre-seed investments, and angel and venture capital, specifically focusing on powering an innovation ecosystem in Appalachian, Ohio. State innovation hubs promote economic development. This slide shows the Portsmouth gaseous diffusion site being redeveloped with the assistance of the new Patton Appalachian Nuclear and Advanced Energy Hub. Another innovation hub in the region is the Collaborative Appalachian Revitalization and Building of New Industries, or Carbon Hub, which leverages the region's rich carbon resources, including coal, timber, and hemp, to develop and commercialize sustainable carbon-based materials. Now, here's a good example of how the region's research labs and institutes can grow the economy. West Virginia University's Water Research Institute just spun off a new LLC to pilot a technology to harvest rare earths and other critical minerals from acid mine drainage, leaving clean water behind. Extractive industries of the past left lasting environmental harms throughout Appalachia. West Virginia University's approach rights the wrongs of historic resource extraction through environmental restoration while offering the potential for sustainable employment in the region. The next pillar we look at is supplier development. Ohio is a state of supplier companies, and those supply chains run through the Buckeye Hills region. Today, major new industrial developments are built in and around north central Appalachia and Ohio, in semiconductors, batteries, defense, primary metals, clean technology, and other sectors. The Buckeye Hills region is ideal for supplying some of these. Some of them are quite enormous new developments. Development of supply chains for these industries is already supported by state programs to get the supply chains in place even as facilities are being built. And of course, our incentive program tab can link you to the Ohio Department of Development and other sources of subsidy and technical assistance in accessing those supply chains and support. There are other existing programs that strengthen suppliers in the region. For example, the Apex Accelerator program at The Ohio University in Athens helps companies access government and defense contracts. The final pillar of international trade we look at is international trade and development. The dashboard shows the location of several larger employers that are the subsidiaries of international firms, as well as the location of some programs supporting the growth of exports. The Columbus Regional Airport Authority, overseeing the operations of the John Glenn International Airport and the Rickenbacker International Airport, get people and freight from throughout Southeast Ohio to global destinations. The region is served by Foreign Trade Zone 138 at the Rickenbacker International Airport. The Buckeye Hills region has a high quality of life and a low cost of living. The region is known for its many recreational opportunities. There are 23 school districts in the region. The combined average high school graduation rate of the public schools was about 93%. This is higher than the state average. This picture shows the solar panels used by the Athens City Schools to reduce utility costs. The Buckeye Hills region is an active area for solar development, with expanding markets for solar firms. There are varied housing options throughout the region. The average price of a home in Buckeye Hills is modest, ranging from about $60,000 in Meigs County to around $130,000 in Athens County. But that said, housing is available at all pricing levels throughout the county. So if you are interested in learning more, contact us. There's a button on the map, on the story map, that you can contact us. Thank you so much for your attention, and we look forward to the discussion.
Well, thank you, Wendy and Prakash, for walking through that, and congratulations on building out this story map. I know it's just a pilot, but it's clear that you put a lot of effort into it. So thank you for spending time there. And I would encourage everyone that just walked through that, and hopefully you had a chance to maybe look around on the interactive link, to please drop your feedback in the chat. We're also going to have a couple of Mentimeter questions later, but we'd really like to hear from you, both in terms of sort of that particular work product, but also just your general experience with, what are the tools, what are the messages that you use or would like to use in attracting private sector investment to your communities. Next, I want to introduce Sam Miller from the Buckeye Hills Regional Council. Buckeye Hills was generous enough to work with us and ReImagine on this project. And, we really couldn't have done it without them. And this was a pilot. We don't claim that it's perfect. So again, we welcome feedback. But Sam, thanks for your generosity and partnership, and really the whole team at Buckeye Hills.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of ReImagine's work, and it's been great to work with ProsperAmerica on this whole thing. Before I kind of dive into why an organization like mine is partnering on this project, I just want to talk a little bit about what Buckeye Hills is. So I know on the earlier conversation, there was a lot of discussion around planning. Who is doing community planning? How can we bring our folks on board to be engaged in projects like this? And I want to take a chance just to remind everyone on this call that Buckeye Hills is a local development district. And if you live in an ARC designated county, you too are covered by a local development district. These are often called a variety of things, like area development districts, a council of governments, regional planning, and development commissions, but we're all charged with the same goal, which is to be a multi-county planning organization facilitating community-based, regionally driven economic development. So why is this important? I think when you are partnering with large organizations like ReImagine and Prosper, local trust is a huge hurdle that many of these organizations face. Even if you have the best intentions, you really need that person on the ground to help facilitate those conversations. And so Buckeye Hills has a long legacy of trust in our counties. So do a lot of the other local development districts across the Appalachian region. And we are also play a key role in developing the economic roadmap for our region. Every 5 years, organizations like mine are responsible for writing a comprehensive economic development strategy to assist in building that economic roadmap. There's a link to our current one in here if you are all interested in what that looks like. And this time we wrote this document, we really took a look at using a ground up process to ensure that this document was informed and created by our communities. So everything you see on that link that was shared in the chat is a direct result of a conversation or a point that was brought up during working groups and information gathering sessions we held with our communities. However, my team is small but mighty. We only have, I think, 5 people on my staff that just work in development for my 8 counties. And that sounds like a lot of people until you realize all of the things that we do. And while we have the best intention to help our local economic development grow, we also don't have all of the tools in the toolbox. So working with ReImagine and ProsperAmerica on this amazing platform to kind of showcase all of the data has allowed us, again, to tell someone what we believe our assets to be. They're all in that map. And ReImagine Appalachia pulled the data for us. They answered some key questions for us, and they also did a little bit of forecasting on what it looks like in the future. This tool really is going to help us continue to sell our region and give us that competitive edge. The things that they pulled and the platforms they created through the story map is not something my team ever could have accomplished, and I'm incredibly thankful for the partnership with them. I know that we are a pilot, and we are still working out a little bit of the kinks that are on there, but I think a lot of people talk about projects being collaborative, but this truly was collaboration at its core. We had meetings, we shared feedback. Everything came from a place of understanding and a relentlessness to make it the best possible tool it could be. And I am just incredibly grateful for the work of everyone involved, specifically Wendy and Bhattacharya. I know I had a lot of comments. You guys took it all in stride. And again, just really thankful for this tool. And I'm excited to continue to share it with my community. They know all of these assets exist, but they don't always know the numbers and the actual impact of it. And this allows us to give them a place where they can go and see that. So again, just incredibly grateful for this tool and continuing to develop it together.
Well, thank you, Sam, and thanks to all of our panelists. I'd like to remind everyone that there will be breakout sessions so we can continue the conversation and really spend some time and dig in. And with that, why don't we pivot to some Mentimeter questions. We will have some more questions for our panelists here as we go forward. But why don't we, I see we've got our first one up. So as a reminder, go ahead and click on that participation link that was just dropped into the chat. Thank you. And the question is, would something like this be of interest to your community? And what excites you about this pilot project? So we'll just take a minute to let everybody answer, and would encourage you to participate if you can. You can also feel free to drop a comment in the chat. And we had a couple of questions during the discussion, but if anybody else has questions for the panelists, I will be facilitating those here in a minute.
And if anyone is having trouble figuring out the Menti poll, please just let us know. Looks like Amanda might be suggesting the...
Yeah, it's really slow.
Not sure what we could do about that, unfortunately. But hopefully folks are getting in there. Let us know if not. Maybe drop your answers in the chat if need be, and we can plug them in at a later point as well if if we have to. You can also go to menti.com and type the code in that you see at the top of the screen. So if you just go to menti.com, it'll ask for a code and you can just type in this 86978913, and that might also give you quicker access.
Okay, so the second link works better.
Yeah, because I see that it's showing only 2 people are currently even in the Menti trying to fill it out. So apologies if the link is being odd.
Yeah, my link didn't work the first time, so Molly, I did what you said and went to menti.com and typed in the number, and it seems to have brought up the right question.
Awesome. Yeah, I would maybe suggest doing that if you're having any trouble clicking the link in the chat. You can just type in menti.com and put that code in. It looks like people are getting in here now, which is great.
Good. Well, I will give that another minute as we go. Riswika, why don't I come to you while folks are still filling this in? We talked a little bit about how this has been a journey. We started with a hypothesis and a gap analysis. We've been on our way, but maybe talk a little bit about where at least our preliminary conversations are about the future, which will clearly be informed by the feedback from the folks in the audience today.
Yeah, I also kind of want to preempt it. Like this is what we're thinking. But I think increasingly the future for us is if I can create, well, not boxes because we have those right in front, but buckets certainly. If we can create kind of 3 buckets of where we think there is certainly conversations worth having and exploring. The first is to certainly work with communities and expand kind of what, honestly, Buckeye Hill has really set the tone for us to do, which is to see how we can help build capacities of communities and essentially be able to work closely to see, what does it look like to create, to Bikash and Wendy's point, these beautiful story maps, and what are the capacities which are currently there and where can we support communities the most. That's the first kind of piece of what we want to do. The second of where we see is the connect with private sector and being able to have a what we've broadly right now kind of scoped it out as is, can we have like a private sector advisory committee of sorts where a cohort of potential investors and private sector leaders come together to provide feedback and input and guidance to communities on what they are sharing, what looks like these are kind of investable pathways and assets which are shared with businesses, and kind of really having that direct connect with a smaller cohort of business leaders who are wanting to provide support and I use this word cautiously, but in some ways, insights and mentorship on what the future should look, what the asset sharing and what the story mapping should look like, and kind of what data points make sense. And then the third thing that we really see is, can we create more opportunities for serendipity? Can we actually get communities and private sectors and investors increasingly in a room? Because I'm afraid that we still might be living in silos quite a bit. But can we actually get them to find different opportunities for different platforms where they can increasingly connect with each other? And does serendipity do its thing and result in more investments and conversations and kind of tangible partnerships for the longer term? So those are 3 buckets which we're actively exploring and seeing what resonates with communities and how we can really build out those capabilities.
Well, thank you for that. And as we jump into the next question, which is what value or assets does Appalachia offer private investors? So we already heard through the presentation, there were a number of asset classes mentioned, but we just wanted to get your firsthand take on that. While those are coming in, I just wanted to summarize what I saw in the chat, or sorry, in the last Mentimeter, which was, it seemed pretty uniformly from those that responded that yes, that kind of a tool would be helpful. There was discussion about messaging purposes, economic development visioning, There were a few other things. Looking forward to getting some feedback on maybe what else is needed or how could we make that better. But thank you for providing that feedback, confirming our hypothesis there. So I'm seeing some responses coming in. Not surprised to see people. That's something that most leaders in Appalachia will point out to the people being really a strength and an asset. And as Ritvika mentioned in her comments, workforce was something also that we heard from the private sector. So that's a nice through line as well.
One of the questions that is in the chat a little bit I might lift up is just some of the logistics of how you did this. I think we have so many doers in the audience. They're like, all right, let's make it. So there was a question on how you got funding for it. There's a question on how much the GIS or story map cost, or is there outlets on how to access those tools? So we don't have too much time left in the session, but just to say, Bhattacharya and Wendy are available for folks who have follow-ups on just those logistics. I know they love talking about their craft. And then also if y'all want to speak to any of that super quickly, just highlighting that as these responses roll in.
Yeah, I can. Oh, sorry, Briggs.
Bhattacharya or Wendy, do you want to talk a little bit about putting the tool together?
Yeah, so I can tackle the question about the cost. So S3 ArcGIS, if you're a nonprofit, they offer the service for a very affordable rate. I think it's about $100 per year if you're a nonprofit. So you are able to use their host of different services from Arc, from accessing tools such as the story map to, accessing dashboard and different products that they have. But you, on top of that, you also have to pay for $120 for the credit. So as we are using this product, as we are creating maps, it chips away a certain credit. So yearly you have to sort of pay towards the credit on top of the membership fee. But in all, I think it's they make it affordable for nonprofits to access these products and services.
I would add that the ArcGIS story map itself is very easy to edit. I've used Canva, Kaltura. That stuff is hard. This is not hard. Now, Bakash did the behind the scenes editing of the dashboards. I think that's hard. But he is able, many places offer their data in a ArcGIS form. So he was able to lift that from many places because ArcGIS is commonly used. That part is hard. Writing the story map and putting it together is a pleasure. No one should be afraid of that.
Well, I wanted to go to Sam. Sam, you talked generally about why you participated in this, and I just wanted to see if there was anything more that you wanted to add, particularly around maybe like what changes you'd like to see or how can this be more effective. And for the audience, that is the question to you in the Mentimeter. Really looking forward if we were to make some improvements either for the story map or as we replicate it and think about a version 2.0, if you will, like what is missing and how can this tool be more effective? So while those comments are coming in, Sam, just really anything on your mind, particularly forward looking.
Hi, I'm so sorry. My computer decided it hates Zoom all of a sudden, so that's really helpful and awesome. So apologies for I dropped off there for a minute. Briggs, if you could just catch me up over the last 2 seconds or 2 minutes that you were talking, I'm happy to give you any of my thoughts.
I really just wanted to give you another minute here now that we're past the formal remarks and particularly looking forward. I know you had some thoughts about things that we could do to make this even better moving forward, and particularly from your role at Buckeye Hills, just curious, like what additional tools or how could we make this tool even better?
Yeah. So again, apologies that my computer decided it hates Zoom. I really think something that our organization struggles with, and I know, goes back to our fireside chat this morning as well, is that private industry investment. That is a very tricky nut for us to crack here at Buckeye Hills because we are a quasi-governmental entity. We work a lot with grants in our communities. One of the challenges we kind of struggle with and are trying to find ways to navigate is driving private investment into the amazing communities we have and building off of those assets. I see this tool really as a way for us to go to the table and tell folks, like, have a better competitive portfolio to show them of like why your money will go further if you invest here. I think there's a couple of things in the tool that still need tweaked, but honestly, Wendy and Bakash did a great job fixing a lot of those before we presented it today, and it is looking really good. I think the main thing that I want to kind of use this tool to do is kind of twofold. One is to educate my communities on how to use it. It's a great tool, but there is a learning curve on how you use ArcGIS platforms to even just showcase it and navigate through. So that's one of the things that I want to spend the next couple of months working on is, how do I let my communities know this tool exists? And how can I help them learn a little bit more skill sets to utilize it and also share it with other people who might find it interesting? And also to let them know that these are the things investors are looking for. And so you can protect your assets, but also still make them investable. And that's what I'm hoping that this tool does, is show our community what investors are looking for, but also be prepared to ensure that we're not giving away everything and recreating boom bust cycles. So I hope that kind of answers it a little bit. I only think that it's going to continue to grow through all of this.
That was great, Sam. Thanks for doing that. And thanks for the audience for providing your feedback. We certainly value that. And we have just one final question, which is really what capacity would your community need to replicate or expand something like this? We know not every community has the same capacity and ability to curate messages with the private sector in mind. So wanted to kind of assess, like, would you have the capacity to do this yourself? Would you need a partner to step in and assist you with that? If you could give us any feedback, that would be really helpful moving forward. So that's the Mentimeter question. Look forward to hearing that. And I'll just comment while that's coming in that in the last ReImagine Appalachia webinar that I participated in, there was a pretty uniform comment around the value of having some unified messaging for the region. And I think a tool like this certainly is helpful in that regard. It's Bakash put together a really nice dashboard that was behind this story map that Wendy and Bakash put together. And I think that helps provide a lot of really rich data that can be used for messaging. So I just kind of wanted to lift up that opportunity. We created this really with private sector investment in mind, but I think it also has sort of a secondary or dual purpose in messaging on behalf of the region. So getting a lot of good answers here in terms of community capacity. So we have the capacity, we just need the training, maybe need a partner, funding and a partner. So a range of answers. So appreciate the feedback there. Rizwika, we had a question around funding, and I wondered if just very quickly, maybe a 30 seconds here as we finish out this session, did you just want to make any comments about the funding for this partnership?
Yeah, so for this particular partnership, we're actually philanthropy funded on this. That being said, I think I did want to put in the pitch that if you think like this is a pitch to everyone, if there is space for collaboration, especially from communities, I think the ability to scale with, to my mind, with some sort of like a model along with philanthropy is, I feel like a real pathway, because I feel like what we've done is one pilot of what might be possible. And the impact is like one of the most tangible things that we could see. So yeah, Briggs, to answer your question, this is philanthropy supported. ProsperAmerica, we used our general operating support to be able to do this pilot, but we generally feel like there's so much merit and scope in doing this. So happy to explore possibilities further.
Okay, Well, thanks for that answer, and thanks to all of our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause in the virtual environment. So thank you. And thanks to our audience for participating in those Mentimeters and chats. That is really important feedback that'll help us work together to chart out the future.